feel like you've seen a lot of growth by like the 22nd or 25th on your project, is it okay to cap it off then, or do you want us to go up until the 2nd or 3rd of November on our project? Just because like for someone like me who has like a fast growing plant like rye, I've seen a lot of it happen now. I don't know how much more will happen with like height and germination kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, certainly if you want to terminate early, if you feel like, I would make sure you sort of plot up some of your data first.
Yeah.
Make some graphs and see how the data looks, because that can help you figure out if you think you need to collect some more data to differentiate anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not done yet, but I just wanted to ask that. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, no worries. Okay. Anyone else, any questions? I do have Adrian's recording up on the YouTube site. If anyone wants to go back and look at that again, hopefully, how was that to have a guest? Was that okay? Yeah. Okay. I don't think we'll have a guest this week, but I think we'll have someone from the NRCS, local NRCS office probably next week, and then hopefully someone from the college farm, and slight chance we might actually have another GEO alum that graduated a couple years after Adrian, Liz Placencia, graduated, has done it all, like Adrian, had kind of a different path. She worked for Walt Disney for a little while in their environmental department. She's from California. And then she actually moved to Hawaii, and she was working on a couple of different organic farms in Hawaii. And she is this fall just starting graduate school at the Yale School for the Environment. So she's really busy because she's just starting up school. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get her, but I'm going to try to get her as well. I think it's good for you guys when you can to be able to talk to alums and kind of get a sense of what your peers are doing out in the real world. Yeah. Okay. So let's get on to today. There is an assignment on Moodle. So while we're talking, if you want to go ahead and log into Moodle and download the file with that assignment, it's just a one PowerPoint slide, but we're going to do a little soil order exercise pretty early on in class today. If you guys have that, you can each, I'm going to put you in groups, but you can do that individually and then upload those as sort of a final detailed look at soil orders. So you can be doing that while we're starting off here. Okay, so this is from the weekly, you can sign up for sort of a weekly email from USDA that covers a lot of its climatic conditions. But I got the email yesterday, and there were a couple of interesting maps we've talked a few things about, so I thought I'd just put these up to start with Monday. So the four maps, this is the one in the upper left is a map of total precipitation from July to September of this year. And it's color coded to the average precipitation for those 3 months. And the average is based on data from 1981 to 2010. There's a map, a similar map below, but this is just the October 1st to 14th precipitation anomalies. And then in the upper right, we've got a model of soil moisture in the US as of the 10th of October. And then down below, this is actually a projection for the US. It's a seasonal drought outlook. So all things that are precipitation based, but important for a number of reasons. If you can see, if we start with the July to September total precipitation map, what do you see? What areas are getting precipitation and what areas aren't? So this map on the upper left there.
The east and Midwest seem to be getting a lot of rain, and the West not as much.
Okay, very good. And yeah, and if we go to October, just this last month, you can see how it's really really dried out in this last month, with certainly more than a quarter of the United States now basically having like less than 10% of the normal precipitation for this time. What sort of big weather events have happened that, or weather-related things are going on that explain or are explained by this map? What's one thing that's been going on? Patrick, any ideas? What's been happening kind of in the southeast here the last month or so?
Hurricanes?
Yeah. Yeah, so we've had at least, we just had one that passed through. They're not making as much news as they do a lot of times, and but we've had at least, well, this is one of the most active hurricane seasons on record. We're into the, let's see, Delta, is that the Greek alphabet? Yeah, I think it's Greek alphabet. And hurricane season typically goes at least until the 1st of November. So the hurricanes are keeping the southeast part of most of the southeast part of the United States relatively moist. What's a consequence of, or what events are happening out in the west that are related to this map?
The fire's going on.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why the fire season is so bad. There's been so little rain, and it wasn't necessarily that dry in the spring, but actually some of the worst fire seasons happen when you have a wet spring and then the summer dries out, because a wet spring produces a lot of plant growth, and so you have a lot of fuel for the fires. And then if you dry up in the summer and into the fall, you can really have pretty difficult conditions. We're even in drought here in central PA. It's been quite dry here. We've had to water a lot more than we normally do, but you can see, more than 25% of the country now basically has had almost no precipitation, and that's what you end up with, really low soil moisture content. So people that are trying to grow plants are probably having to irrigate a lot more, and or their crops aren't, they're not going to get as good a crop. And it looks like for the next 3 months, basically, this is only going to get, remain the same or get worse. Usually fire season's over also by sort of October, November, but I was reading an article this morning, and there are actually new fires that are still starting. There was one that just started in Colorado, just outside of Boulder. So with the drought conditions staying like this, even as the temperatures go down somewhat, there's going to be lots of fall hazards for fires. And actually, it's out west. This will be an interesting situation, because one of the things that happens out west in a big way is hunting season starts. And when hunting season starts, you tend to have a lot of people going up into the mountains. So there's some danger there with people, having to be concerned about fires. But a lot of times people actually go and camp during the hunting season, go to deer camps and things like that. They've got those out east, but that actually makes it more dangerous, because you have more people out in the woods that can potentially be starting fires by accident. Anyway, so this is important. It relates to soils, so it's one of the reasons why all of these maps, they're not made by the USDA, and in fact, most of these two maps on the left are from this thing called PRISM. It's at Oregon State, and so I put the URL up there. If you actually go to that website, you can custom make your own maps for different time periods. So you can make maps for precipitation, you can make maps of temperature, and I've got a couple other parameters you can map as well. But that's kind of a neat website if you want to make a more a detailed map or a thematic map related to something specific. Okay, any questions? All right, so this week we're going to finish talking about soil taxonomy a little bit, because it pretty directly relates to soil mapping. And like I said, you guys have already done some work with soil maps. You already know the Web Soil Survey and the Soil Web. So we're going to sort of transition slowly today from thinking about soil orders, and soil orders are sort of the broadest way that we map soils, right? So here's a global map of using the U.S. soil order classification. So there are only 12 soils in that classification. As I mentioned, there's a Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, the FAO, has got their own soil classification or soil taxonomy that's got probably 30 to 35 soil orders. And they're all basically equivalent to the 12 soil orders of the US taxonomy. Probably globally, maybe it makes a little bit more sense to have a broader range of soil orders, because certainly the US doesn't cover all of the possible climatic conditions that you might find on Earth. And certainly climate is an important part of taxonomy. But even just within the US, those 12 soil orders end up 25,000 soil series. So you can imagine globally, there's probably at least a few 100,000 different soil series. So soils are diverse, and that's part of what we have to get our head around when we're thinking about soil maps. When you dig a hole to start looking at soil, how representative is what you see spread out across the landscape? And so that gets us into soil maps. Here are two different views of the college farm that are both maps that you can see they have scales on them. This small map that I'm circling right now, this is interesting because the college farm has only been run by Dickinson staff for about the last 10 or 12 years. And before that, it was the college's land, but we just rented it out to a farmer. And you can see the farmer was farming almost all of the land. This particular farm, the part that's kind of the Dickinson College farm is what I'm outlining right here. We actually own the farm adjacent to it as well on the east, but we still lease that out to a renting farmer. Someday maybe the college will take that over as well. But you can see now today, they're really farming a much smaller part of the land. You can see these are all tilled beds, and mainly they're growing vegetables for production. They do have some cattle, and so they also graze cattle and sheep, relatively small groups on the areas that aren't being farmed. And they've got a big composting operation as well, which the compost piles, one of the many unfortunate things about you all not being on campus, but one of those things is that you produce compost. So the college actually takes all the food scraps from the hub and takes them out and composts them. So typically there is 10 or 12 rows each, 100 feet long of composting material that they use to then replenish the soils. So the compost piles right now are down really low because they don't have very much input. And finally, this is the actual soil map. This is obviously, you probably recognize this. You've made these from the Web Soil Survey. So the college has, the college farm is mainly 3 different types of soils. There's the Duffield soil is DU, the Huntington soil is H, and the Neshaminy soil is NE. And these 3 different soils we'll see are part of the difference is in geomorphic position. So the Huntington soil always occurs in low spots that might have been drainages at one point, but low spots. The Neshaminy only occurs on this ridge because it forms above a type of rock called diabase, which is actually almost it's like the guts of a volcanic rock, basically. And the Duffield is the main soil that forms on most of the area of the farm, and that generally forms on limestone. So we have 2 different parent materials, but because we've got there's a hill going here, there's a hill here, because there's a moderate amount of difference in slope to the farm, that also changes some of the soil types for the soil map. And we'll talk more about that as the day goes on. Okay, so we're going from soil orders to soil series, right? This is the most general map of soil orders, and this is the most specific, a map of soil series. So before we look in detail at the soil series, this is a sort of one last sort of flow chart that this is what's on the PowerPoint slide that's listed as the Monday assignment for this week. And this is, to me, that this is another nice way to organize the different soil orders. And so what I want you to do, I'm going to give you until probably 11 o'clock, and I'll put you in breakout rooms. And what I want you to do is go through and identify which soil order belongs to which number. Okay, so these are all the 12 soil orders on the right. And you can see for each of these, there's some clues based on pathways. So we start with the raw material at time 0. Everything is C. You know, it's just broken up bedrock or regolith. And then once we start to form a soil, we can have we can have what's called a site-dominated pathway. This is a wet site. We can have climate-dominated pathways that produce 3 different soil orders. We can have parent material-dominated pathways, and that produces 2 soil orders. And then we can have just degree of soil formation. So basically going this path that goes straight down from 1 to 12, that's essentially not much time at 1 and a long time at 12. Okay. But if you can picture this and you can work through this and talk through this relatively quickly, there's lots of clues on the map. Some of the clues are in the soil horizons, and which horizons are big, which horizons, are thick or thin. Some of the horizons have letters after them. So if you remember what those are, that gives you a clue as well. And so I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, and all I want you to do, and on each slide in the end, you can just come into the slide here and you can type the number. You can type the number by the name and then save it, and then you can upload this to the assignment folder. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, so I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, and so the breakout rooms, I'm putting you there so you can talk through this. So you have someone to talk through these things. Because that, I think, might be useful. We'll put you in, how many people do we have today? We got everyone, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I'll put you in 3 rooms. And I'm just going to do it automatically, so you guys will be surprised when you see who you have. Okay. So go ahead and join the breakout room, and I'll give you a minute warning when we're coming back. Okay, could you guys get through things pretty quickly, you think? Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is we'll just go through these one at a time, and I'll call on one of you to give an answer and then sort of briefly explain what it is that led you to your answer. Okay, so let's start off with number, oops, yeah, you can see my screen still, right? Yep. Okay, so number 1, Odin. What do you think number 1 is and why?
Oh, okay. So number 1, I have 9 alpha sol.
Wait. So sorry. So for soil number 1.
Oh, for soil number 1. Oh, I thought you were. Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I misunderstood. I have Intisol because it's very undeveloped.
Okay, very good. Yeah. So all that's there is just a little bit of an A horizon. So 1 is an entisol. Okay, how about Jackie? How about number 2?
We have mollisol because it was grass climate and wet sites with a lot of organic matter.
Okay, is that what everyone had? Anyone have any different? Patrick, what did you have?
I had 1 through 4 in my group, and so on that one I had histosols because it built from the organic content. So I thought that was below, and it kind of developed the large organic content. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be off.
Okay, so those 2 are the 2 soils that are characterized by having the most organic material for sure. But one of them is characterized by having almost nothing but organic material. So which of those 2 just has essentially just an accumulation of organic material?
Well, it said I was going off of what the 12 descriptions were in the soil taxonomy reading, and the histosols talk about being formed from organic deposits, so I assume that would mean they're entirely organic, yes?
Okay, does that make sense, everyone? Yeah, so mollisols also are characterized by the things Jackie said, but the difference is mollisols have other horizons developed, but histosols basically are just an accumulation of organic material on sometimes right on the regolith. There's a little bit of a C horizon here, but not very much. Okay, so that's 2. So Isabel, what about number 3?
We said gellisol because permafrost and just the very cold regions where it's located.
Okay, and if you look at the horizons, is there a clue in the lettering for the horizons?
Yeah, let me pull that up better.
So remember what that
Yeah.
G stands for. The small G after the B next on as at the B horizon. It's a glacial, and so that's a soil that's either frozen or permanently wet. And the C, you see the C has got an F by it, and that actually means frozen. Right. So this is one of the reasons. This is why we're going to keep working on some of these. Getting the horizon designations down. We'll keep working on this, but some of these you just have to look up. So that's one of the reasons why you always have your trusty soil handbook with you, because this has got a table that's got everything in it. Because I don't have all those memorized either, but there's some of the common ones you'll start to see. But that's so not only is it the horizons that are present, but the horizon designation sometimes also give you some clues as to what's specific for the horizon, right? And we're certainly, as we go down in these now, we're on the climate dominated pathways, so that gives you kind of a clue as well. Toby, how about number 4?
I think you're muted, man.
Yeah, you are muted.
I am, yeah. Sorry. I had mollisols because of the grasslands and the semi-arid climate.
Okay, so again, thick A horizon or lots of vegetation. So thick A, it's really dark colored, so there's probably lots of organic material in it. These are some of the very, very, very fertile soils because they have lots of carbon in them, because grasses produce really huge, dense root masses over time. Like I said, histosols and mollisols are the 2 horizons where really the A horizon is really organic rich. I guess actually mainly no horizon in histosols, but yeah, but semi-arid climates. So we have cold climates produce something distinctive. These semi-arid climates that are produce lots of grasses are distinct. And what about Patrick, number 5?
Number 5, I had iridosols, because where was it? I'm trying to think. Sorry, I had my thing up before, but I don't anymore. Yeah, it was dry at the top, arid climate. So yeah, I don't know. That's the only reason I picked that one. But
Yep. So we expect sometimes in arid climates that sometimes we'll actually, this is a place where we'll have pans, frangipans and durapans, because you actually have water that evaporates. So when you get lots of rain, the rain can dissolve certain minerals in the soil, but because there's lots of evaporation as the water then leaves the soil by evaporation, it actually can cause precipitation of gypsum, sometimes calcite, sometimes sodium chloride, table salt, they're potassium salts. And so that can also be a distinctive part of the horizons in iridosols. Okay, Ben, let's jump over to the parent-dominated pathways now. What's number 6?
We got an andesol, the volcanic activity or material there.
Right, so that one's pretty straightforward with the volcanic material. Also, because of that, you tend to have, not all of these soils have O horizons. Is actually part of the diagnostic stratigraphy or horizonation, but volcanic andesols typically do. They also tend to have an E horizon as well. So that's pretty distinctive as a parent material. So what that means is most of these other pathways, you can get to these soils no matter what your parent material is, right? But we just have 2 things, 6 and we'll get to 7 here with Sammy, that are actually, the soils are really inherently tied by definition to their parent material. So Sammy, what's number 7?
We had number 7 as a vertisol.
Okay. And why is that?
Well, just because at the top it says clay materials, wet, dry climate, and the BTK horizon. I believe the T is for clay-rich minerals, and the vertisol is soils with 30% or more of clay.
Yep. So the B definitely it's actually usually an anomalous accumulation of soil. So when you see a T, it's not just that there's clay in the soil, but that the clay has actually moved. So it's an eluvial. It means there's an eluvial horizon where clay is accumulated, being taken down into the soil. So that's T, and K is in this case it can be an accumulation of calcium carbonate. So that's what the K stands for. So those are both things that are what those suffixes are. I'm just looking in page 2-4 in my soil taxonomy book. Remember, it's got the table that defines all those, so that's good. So now let's go back. So we've talked about site, climate, and parent material dominated pathways. This other main pathway really can occur with almost any type of parent material, and it's more going into more extensive development of soil. So Danielle, we're to number 8. What'd you get for number 8?
We said inceptisols, and we got that based on the horizons. Like there's that BW horizon, and inceptisols are known for like weakly formed or colored horizons. So that's what the W stands for, I think. So.
Yep, very good. Okay, so we have entisol, almost no development, inceptisol, the inception of soil development and horizonation. If we go to 9, we're back up to Odin. What about 9?
All right. So 9, I had Alpha Sol because it was like kind of just mixed horizons, deciduous vegetation, humid. Yeah.
Okay. Yep, that's good. So alpha sols, part of what when you look at the horizonation, you can see there's a lot more structure in the B horizon, the way it's colored, and you can see the development of an E horizon, right? So what is an E horizon again? What's happened there?
Eluviation.
Yeah, so that means exit. The E horizon means stuff has been removed, and it's generally, not always, but generally it moves down. And so when you have an E horizon, it's pretty common to have a BT horizon where you've had the accumulation of the stuff that's come out of the A or the upper part of the B to actually form the E horizon. Okay, and then Jackie, we're back to you, round 2. What'd you get for number 10?
For 10, we have Spottisol, because of the cool humid climate, coniferous forests, and the E horizon.
Perfect. Yep. Also more extensive E horizon, not much of an A horizon. And part of that's because coniferous vegetation, we've talked a little bit about this, but pine needles tend to do what to the soil? Do you remember?
Acidify.
Acidify the soil. So they really limit the vegetation growth around the base of the trees, and so you don't get as much, you get O horizon litter, but then you don't get an A horizon, which is sort of the mixture between the mineral soil and the organic material. Very good. And then the S, the BS, so there's the S stands for removal of some oxides and organic matter accumulation. So that would be the B, that would be the S in the BS. In case you ever wondered what the S stood for in BS, that's what it stands for. Isabel, number 11.
We had ultisols because they also have that weathering of the clay, and so you can see that in the E horizon and the BT horizon.
Very good. And instead of being the start of a soil development in septosoil, now we're at the ultimate development of soils, right? And then the last one, 12, Toby?
We had oxasols, as they're just extremely old, hot, humid climates.
Yeah, and O, that little O by the B actually stands for residual oxide accumulation. Okay, so anyways, we're not going to talk too much more about soil orders now, except in passing. You hopefully are exposed enough of them so you kind of understand what they are. But that's an important piece of information to have. And so let me catch up here. I just went through and I wasn't clicking as we went through, but those are all of the soils. And so ultimately, there's lots of different ways to divide up soils. This diagram on the lower right here is just a different way of showing soils based mainly on degree of weathering, but it follows a pretty similar pattern to what we just worked through. And I think most of these, once you read the definition and you look at where they are, they make sense with our global soil order map, right? So things like the alpha sols, light green, kind of occur in around the southern part of the Great Lakes. But as we go a bit further north, where the forests change and gets cooler, we go into the spottisols. So that makes sense. Similar degrees of soil development, but different dominant vegetation. Our ultisols for the U.S. are just down in the southeast, where it's humid and hot, lots of precipitation. But that's also then scattered around different parts of South America, a lot of Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa. So it's useful to be able to understand these concepts globally. Okay, so the last thing we were going to do today, and it looks like I'm not going to quite get there, is just reviewing one more time our soil taxonomy. I want to go through this for one thing in detail. You were doing this on as part of your reading as well, but this just talks through the different parts of the classification and what things go into what parts of it. I guess, I mean, we're at time. Should we just pick this up on Wednesday, or do you want me to take 5 minutes and quickly run through this? Okay, we'll pick this up on Wednesday and go through this pretty quickly, and this will lead us right into soil maps because, you know, ultimately the soil map is showing the soil series, and along with, you know, the first thing you see really when you see the description of a soil series is you see the soil taxonomy, and all of this information is in that soil taxonomy. So it's a good reminder that why do we use classification? It's a shorthand that when you learn how to decipher, there's lots of information in it. And so it's an important thing to be able to do. Okay, so readings for Wednesday. Like I said, we'll probably have a short assignment Wednesday for lab. And it will be sort of a work assignment, but mostly lab. This week is for you to work on your projects, and I will definitely talk with everyone on Wednesday about your project to get a little report of where you are and help you work through problems. Okay, so enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I will see you in a couple days.
Thanks, Ben.